Dr. Alexander Jacob, the former Director General of Police for the Government of Kerala and the Academic Dean of Vedhik IAS Academy, has brought in and established a number of reforms to civil service preparations and techniques. Let me welcome Dr. Alexander Jacob, our Academic Dean, for today's session.
Welcome to Vedhik IAS Academy, the largest online IAS Academy in India. I am Dr. Alexander Jacob, IPS, former Director General of Police of Kerala. Now, to increase your intellectual power and to store your knowledge for the examination, there are a lot of techniques developed by people all over the world. We will study some of these techniques so that if any one of you can copy these techniques, it will increase your knowledge and increase your performance in the examinations, especially the civil service examination. The first memory technique is named after Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was a little corporal in the French army. He came from Corsica, which was not part of France till 1764. In 1764, the Frenchmen tried to conquer Corsica. The Corsicans resisted, led by a leader called Paoli. And Paoli's first assistant was Napoleon's father. They fought for 5 years. But in 1769, the Corsicans lost the battle and the Frenchmen were chasing the resistance group. Napoleon's mother, Laetitia, was pregnant at that time. They ran for safety, and inside the forest, the French soldiers missed Laetitia by 500 feet. At one junction, Laetitia and the husband ran towards the right, and the Frenchman went towards the left. She gave birth to the child and named him Napoleon. Napoleon means one who will do revenge to whomever possible. So she named him Napoleon so that he will do the revenge to the Frenchmen. But that son went to the army, and by 1799, 30 years old, he took over the French government when the government was tottering after a French Revolution. He created a French empire. He fought 62 battles, won 60, and lost only 2. The Battle of Leipzig and the Battle of Waterloo. Napoleon had profound memory. In the battlefield, he will name each captain by name. Albert, fire that side. The Albert will be flabbergasted. How come the emperor know him by his name? It created a personal loyalty between the captains and the emperor. Roughly, there were around 6,000 captains in the French army. Napoleon could remember each one of them. So, in the Russian campaign, his trusted lieutenants, one was Marshal Ney, the other one was Duroc. Duroc asked him a question. Emperor, how do you remember all these facts? And Napoleon explained his memory technique to Duroc. It was recorded and kept. And one of the greatest biographies of Napoleon is written by Emil Ludwig. Of course, the greatest biography of Napoleon is Abbott's Napoleon, a 1,000-page book. But the most readable biography is by Emil Ludwig. The greatness of that book was first recognized by his wife. His wife told Emil, "This book should be dedicated to me." He said, "Why? I have written many books. You have never asked me so." She said, "This book will be read by people throughout the centuries. And they should know that I am your wife. So dedicate this book to me." Emil Ludwig obeyed that request. So when the book starts, he says, "To Elga Ludwig," like that the book starts. Of all the books of Emil Ludwig, the greatest is the biography of Napoleon. In that biography, Emil Ludwig describes what Napoleon told Duroc. The technique is known as the cupboard technique, Almirah technique. He says, "I arrange my brain as compartments. Whenever I want to remember something, I open that cupboard, take the material I want, and after use, I deposit it back in the same shelf. And when I want to sleep, I will close all the shelves in the Almirah and I will go to bed. I will sleep." This technique was wonderful. Whenever Napoleon wanted to do one thing, other things never distracted him. Sometimes he will be drafting Court Napoleon, the 1804 famous constitution he drafted for France. Sometimes he will be planning a war. Then only that war plan will be in his brain, nothing else. Once Napoleon started in his journey in the Russian campaign, after 2 hours he found a column stranded on the road. He asked them, "What is the number of your column?" They said 621. He said, "Where did you start from?" They said the place from where they started. He asked how far you have started from there, how many hours before. They said 3 hours before. Within a split second, Napoleon said, "Walk around 400 feet, turn right, and go for about 2.5 kilometers. You will reach your parent body." Duroc says at that time, around 5 lakh soldiers were on the march. Entire march is in the brain of Napoleon. So if one company strays away from the path, he could immediately retrace them and make them join their parent battalion. Each of the compartments were tight. So this is something which everyone can practice. Human brain can remember about 10 crore facts in the brain using the RNA and DNA molecules. We store our facts in the system. How we store the memory, nobody knows. Some people surmises that when an RNA molecule gets a hydrogen atom, it restructures into a DNA molecule, and that DNA molecule stores that information. Like our heritage details are stored by the DNA molecule with adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine, which is 4 factors. They spurn our information and store it in a DNA molecule. So this kind of a storing is done in our brain. So about 10 crore or 100 million facts can be stored in our brain. Even Albert Einstein may not have used even 3% of the total information. 3% of the total brain. 97% of the brain was completely unutilized. Ordinary human beings may not use more than 1% of the human brain. 99% of the brain is completely unutilized. So more you read, the more number of cupboards you should fill up. And how to do it? They say that first you should divide your compartments into different subjects. For example, physics, there should be one shelf, chemistry another, zoology another, literature another, history another, geography another, like that. 20 to 30 cupboards you arrange and start storing the information. Suppose a fellow says a word like atom and you are studying about atom. If you are studying the physical properties of atom, it will go into physics. If you study about the chemical properties of atom, it will go to chemistry, the shelf of chemistry. If you are studying about the history of atom, it will go to history. But suppose you are reading a book like explaining the atom, then it will go to literature. So just because you are reading atom, you cannot decide on to which shelf it should go. On what aspect of atom you are studying, according to which it will go to the concerned segment. Concerned segment. Like that, if you store your information, by the age of 17 or so, the shelves will become full. Then the particular shelf which is full should be subdivided further. For example, suppose your chemistry shelf is full, then subdivide that shelf into different shelves. For physical chemistry, one segment. For aromatic chemistry, another shelf. For periodic table of the chemistry, another shelf. Like that, you can subdivide that shelf. Suppose your mathematics shelf is too full. You divide it into sub-shelves with equal space. So one shelf will go to arithmetic, one will go to algebra, another will go to geometry, another will go to tensor analysis, one will go to topology, another will go to measure value theorems. Like that, you subdivide and divide. Next one will go to metrics, like that. If one shelf is not full, keep it that way. Each one will specialize on one subject or two subjects. The subjects on which you specialize increase the number of shelves in your almirah or cupboard. Like that, the shelves will divide and divide and divide. A knowledgeable man is somebody who have around 150 shelves in the almirah or the cupboard in your brain. Now, this information has to be classified and stored. When you classify and store it, then that information has to be connected or taken from source.